Good news, everyone! My Alfa Romeo Brera is not a total shit heap. Yeah! The last time you'll have seen this car on the channel was just after I'd purchased it, and I was absolutely at my wit's end. I was completely convinced of the fact that for the second time I had bought the worst Alfa Romeo in the entire world. The car had a couple of issues. I knew about the fact that it was a Cat D write-off in the past, and that was the result, allegedly, of a light shunt the car received a few years ago when it's imported from the Republic of Ireland. But the chap selling it to me seemed decent and honest. He was clearly an Italian car fan. I thought he knew his Alfas, and so the car looked pretty decent, certainly looked a lot better than the kind of car that Laurie and I normally buy, which are the cheapest examples of their kind, and I thought it would be a good car to have. Well, as you know, we drove it home. I found it had a really bad misfire at low RPM, and then about 1,000 miles later it started pulling to the right quite dramatically, and I found it had shredded the inside of this tyre. I'd been Googling, and of course that is a terrible, terrible thing to do, because the minute you start Googling car problems, you're basically being told that the apocalypse is coming for you. In the case of this particular car, the misfire problem that many people do experience is often attributed to faulty injectors or something like a faulty fuel pump. Now, those are not cheap items to fix. They cost hundreds of pounds at a bare minimum. And then I started to think, well, the guy said that it drove okay, and it clearly doesn't. So was he lying about other things as well? When the car started to pull to the right, my mind really started to go very, very dark places. I thought, hang on a minute. Is the chassis actually bent on it? He said that it was straight. He said that it hadn't been damaged in the accident, but then he hadn't done the repair, and maybe there's a reason he's selling this car on. And I really, really began to worry. Things didn't get at all better when I found this in the car. This is an OBD2 reader. You can use it to read and diagnose fault codes in basically any modern car. You can also use it to clear any warning lights associated with those errors. And so why would you find something like this in the back of a car that apparently runs and drives absolutely fine? Well, I'll let you guys make up your own conclusion as to why that might be, but I certainly made up mine. And that left me with a decision to make. I'd already bought the 147 and decided that that was the car that I was going to keep. So I needed to sell this one. But what to do? I could either sell it in its current state, with basically some fairly large question marks hanging over a couple of major issues with the car, and absolutely no idea really how good the underside of the car was, or how genuine the story I was given had been. Or I could take the more expensive but much more honourable route and take the car to a specialist, find out once and for all what was wrong with it, and get it fixed before then selling the car on. And that's what I decided to do. Now, in that first video, I asked you guys for suggestions of Alfa Romeo specialists to bring the car to. And thanks to Jack Riddle, I managed to find one. I took this car to Marco at Torque Automotive in Bedford, who gave the car a complimentary good once-over, a service that is available to anyone. And we found that not only was my front subframe not Swiss cheese, it was actually in remarkably good condition. So we drew up a list of things to do, he gave me a quote, and I got him started working on the car. And the net result of that is that I now have an Alfa Romeo Brera which actually runs and drives like it should. So let's take it out for a quick little spin. But before we do that, there is one thing I really need to show you guys. In that first video of this car, I spent ages talking about the interior, and then, like a fool, I forgot to edit in the shot I got of it into the video. So here it is. It's absolutely gorgeous, covered in aluminium, leather, and it's just a really, really nice place to be. Unfortunately, I'm probably not going to spend too much more time in here, but I wanted you guys to see it because I think it feels like a pretty special place in here. Now, I'm not saying it's slippery and not very grippy outside today, but I want to show you this. All four wheels spinning. Someone was in this hedge the other day. How we laughed and nearly followed them. So yeah, no crazy driving for me today. The all-wheel drive system on this does work very, very well. However, they are still summer Pirellis that it's wearing. Now, the major problem this car had was a real grumble at low RPM. Well, that's pretty much gone. I say pretty much, doesn't seem to be completely gone, but this seems like an engine that isn't ever very happy at low RPM, just as it is. Apparently, they never idle smoothly. That's just how they are. It does feel like a very cammy engine. It only really does its best work over about 4,000 RPM. Fortunately, it is much, much smoother than it ever was. And you put your foot down at about 2,000 RPM now, and it just moves. Before, it would go bah, 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 bah. We've had a full alignment done on this car, so the handling is much, much better. In fact, my major problem with the car before was that response just off dead center was just not there. It was very, very flat, very, very dull. Now it's miles better, much, much improved. This is still a very, very heavy car, and that weight is something you can always feel, but it is an enjoyable car to drive now. Like all old-fashioned performance cars, you really got to keep the engine on the boil to extract the best from the car, but it's enjoyable. It sounds quite pleasant. We have plans to modify the exhaust just slightly so that it breathes a little bit better and sounds a bit more like an Italian V6 should. Now really, the point in today's video is twofold. Number one, I wanted to show you the fact that my car is not a complete basket case. In fact, here's a little picture of what I thought my subframe was going to look like. Not good, is it? And here's a picture of what my subframe actually looks like. So here's the point I'm trying to make. And coming from someone that's a Lotus owner, this is a very, very familiar point to me. When people talk about the issues that these cars have, you know, with the subframe and the injector issues, they make it sound like it's something that is absolutely guaranteed to happen on every single one of these cars. And that's simply not the truth. Now, I'd be lying to you if I said that these were fault-free cars. And even Mark himself will tell you they do require a little bit more maintenance than your average car. But that's not to say that your average car is completely trouble-free. We all know plenty of people with BMWs, Mercedes, Porsches that have been nothing but trouble. And really, I want to say a massive thank you to Marco, because he's now given me a lovely, decent working car back that I'm actually enjoying driving. I'm not enjoying watching the fuel gauge go down at a frankly terrifying rate of knots. However, that is probably more to do with the fact that I'm enjoying driving it than anything else now. I just want it to sound better. It is still an achingly pretty car. I'm going to do a couple of cosmetic tweaks to it before I sell it, but generally I'm very happy now to pass this car on to someone, being confident in the fact that it is mechanically pretty sound now. And that service that Marco gave to me, that free health check, that is available to anyone. If you have a Fiat Alfa Romeo, or he also specializes in BMWs, particularly things like E46 M3s, take your car down to him. Absolutely no obligation. He'll give the car a good once over and tell you if he thinks it needs any attention. He's a great guy, very friendly. You can have all the tea or coffee you can drink, and there seems to be a selection of baked goods on his desk at most times. Maybe that's just a festive thing, I don't know. But anyway, I'm a happy man. I now have 2 working Alphas. So, thanks for watching, guys. Laurie and I are heading off to Berlin in just a couple of days, and we've got a really exciting feature planned there. See you soon. Bye-bye.